Welcome to this episode of the Doug Sanquist Podcast. Where interested is interesting, and interesting people share their stories and build their biographies along the way. I'm your host, Doug Sanquist. I'm a dentist and a photographer, and now a podcast host. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Doug Sanquist, and on Facebook at Doug Sanquist Photo. And you can join our email list by going to DougSanquistPodcast.com. Today's guest is Darren White. Hey, Darren. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Doug. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Good. As with all of our guests, I don't have a bio and haven't read a bio, but I will tell you that Darren is a professional photographer, and he teaches night photography workshops, and he lives in Colorado, and I've been a student of Darren's to learn how to shoot stars, and in my mind is probably the best teacher of astrophotography there is. But that's not really the goal of this podcast. The goal is actually to discover Darren's real biography. You okay with that, Darren?
Yeah, I am.
All right. So to start, I have a list of 10 quick and easy starter questions. There are no maybes here, Darren. So number 1 is gummy bears or M&Ms?
Gummy bears.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Hot or cold?
Cold.
Would you ever wear flip-flops to Disney World? Yes or no?
No.
The reason that question's there is it's always a joke. Whenever I'm at Disney World and I see people wearing flip-flops, I'm literally just shake my head. And it's a rule in my family that nobody can wear flip-flops at Disney World. It's like you if you show up to Disney World with flip-flops and you complain about it, then I will give you no sympathy. That's the way that works. So, all right, number 5, early riser or night owl?
Early riser.
All right. Number 6, cow or chicken?
Chicken.
Number 7, short hair or long hair?
Short hair.
Number 8, tattoos, yay or nay?
Nay.
Number 9, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right. Number 10, cake or pie?
Cake.
And our bonus question, number 11, sauerkraut, love it or hate it?
Hate it.
Do you?
Hate it. No questions.
No question. It's about 50-50 people who love it or hate it so far, which is it's interesting. You know, the reaction is funny. Yeah.
I've never liked it.
All right. So what is your, where were you born?
I was born in Tillamook, Oregon on the North Oregon coast.
All right. And what was your earliest childhood memory?
When I was 3 years old, getting wheeled into the operating room to have eye surgery.
Wow. So What was that memory like?
So I can still see it to this day. And I just remember being on one of those wheel carts going down this hallway into a set of doors.
Uh-huh.
And I remember that part, but I don't remember after I woke up or anything. But I remember that's what it was for, was to have eye surgery.
What was the eye surgery for?
I had a lazy eye, so they had to tighten up one of the muscles on the back side of my eye.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been okay since?
When I get super, super tired, it still kind of turns in a little bit, but yeah, through the years, it's got a lot better.
All right, cool. I'm glad they caught that early, and at least they were able to take care of it. I mean, you are a photographer, so having your eyeballs is kind of important.
Yeah, I agree.
So what were your summers like as a kid up in Oregon?
Oh, gosh. Summers were great. Kick the can, baseball. I lived right next to a school. My neighbor friends were all my age or a little bit older, and so we literally would play baseball and kick the can every day. Skateboarding, just going to the local YMCA and going swimming for $1 each day. I still can't believe it was only $1. But yeah, childhood was pretty much freedom. Just, kind of did what I want. Had the older kids in the neighborhood to look after me. We lived in a different time back then, so parents weren't as worried about their kids at that time too.
Right.
So, yeah, it was good. I had a real good childhood, real good summers, good childhood.
As long as you told your mom where you were going and told you when you'd be back, it was pretty much okay during those times, right?
Yep, exactly.
That's cool. What was your first job?
My first paying job was a newspaper delivery guy. The town that I lived in, when I got the job as a newspaper delivery kid, they didn't have delivery. That was the first time they ever did delivery. Otherwise, you had to go to the store and buy it. And so I had to roll the papers, fold them, put them in the bags, and then ride my bike and throw them on people's doorsteps, 3 days a week. And yeah, that was my first paying job. And I don't think it paid very much.
That's cool though. I mean, you're like, that's a common first job as a newspaper boy. I like that.
Yeah.
So, did you go to college?
I took 2 years of college, but I did not finish.
Cool. And so, what were you planning on doing going to college? What was your career path when you went?
So after high school, let me back up a little bit. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a businessman, like a bank manager, something along that line, something that dealt with money and finances. But as I got older in high school and, life just kind of takes hold and it didn't work out that way. But I did go to college for business. But I ended up working instead and just taking that path.
So what was your first job when you left college? What did you do?
Oh, man. So I was working for a 1-hour photo lab while I was in college. And then I worked at Tillamook Cheese Factory for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I was also doing heating and air conditioning for a local shop there in Tillamook. So I had several jobs during that time. And I just decided that I'd rather work than go to school. So yeah.
That's cool. Well, when did you get into photography?
So I got into photography when I was 12 years old. My mother got a free camera, free 35 millimeter point and shoot from a magazine subscription that she is subscribed to. And she gave it to me, and I started taking pictures of my friends skateboarding, going off ramps, bikes going off ramps. Just carried that camera around all the time when we were out skateboarding and stuff. And I really liked it. I liked the idea that I could take pictures and, freeze action. I liked the idea that I could drop the film off at the local store, and then 3 days later I'd have it back. And
mm-hmm.
it was just something that intrigued me, and I've just been with it ever since.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. So, when did you decide that you could figure out how to make a living taking pictures? So
it was my senior year. I was working at I was working at Kentucky Fried Chicken. And
this is high school, right?
Yeah, my senior year in high school, working at Kentucky Fried Chicken, making about $4 an hour. And I had saved up enough money to buy a camera, and I got the camera during football season. And I had some parents that asked me to photograph their children, or their kids, my peers, playing sports.
Uh-huh.
And so that was the first time I had made money taking pictures.
Wow.
And then shortly after that, I went into doing weddings and portraits and all that kind of stuff in my local area. And then I soon realized that wasn't so much for me. I wanted to be outside doing more of the landscape type stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Taking pictures of people is far different than taking pictures of landscapes, right?
Yeah. Landscapes don't have attitudes.
Yeah. I've done a few weddings in my photography career as well. And I have a bad track record. So far, every wedding that I've done, the marriage has never lasted. So that's my shtick. That's my shtick to tell people that you don't want me taking their wedding photos. So, that's it. That's interesting. So you ended up working for a couple jobs because, being that type of photographer is a pretty tough standalone job.
Oh, yeah. So I've always had a job up until 7 years ago. In 2013 is when I became full-time photography. Mm-hmm. So I spent, 20 years working with different people and magazines and different companies to build up a business that was sustainable so that I could do it full time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that part of it takes a lot of work, and that's the part that most people don't see.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's the relationship. I mean, it's, you don't, yeah, it's lots of people taking pictures out there. It's just trying to find your own little niche in the whole world of where that is, right?
yeah, I honestly today I think it's harder. It may be harder, it may be easier. I don't know. It may be harder to get into photography because the market's so flooded with so many people taking pictures, but it may be easier because people are traveling more now than I think that they used to. Well, at least before this whole thing started,
right? We're in the
now,
middle of a quarantine. So.
Yeah, and social media is, people pay people to travel to these places just to take pictures so that they can promote their products, and so it's kind of 6 of one, a half dozen of the other. But I'm glad that my path took me where it did over the years, and that I was able to spend the time building those relationships with the companies, because it's made a lot easier now.
Yeah. So is that, so I guess you end up, there's all sorts of different, so what are the different avenues that, you've been able to use your photography to make a living in the last 6 or 7 years?
So through workshops, interior design, art consultants, print sales, image licensing, publishers, magazines here and there. Those are the big ones that I can think of right off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. What other? It's tough, right? It's not easy.
Yeah.
It seems easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think for most of us relatively amateur photographers, I think it seems like it's a pretty. You just go out and you're able to shoot these beautiful places and make these beautiful pictures, and then you just, somebody buys them, and then everything is fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't really work that way, does it?
No.
Do you have any other hobbies other than?
Yeah, I like to bike, and when the gym's open, I like to lift weights and play racquetball, and stuff like that. Hiking is tied in with photography though, because I never go hiking without my camera. So, but yeah, outdoor activities. That's pretty much it. I kind of have a set schedule I have during the day when my daughter's in school and I'm not teaching workshops, so it works out pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool. So how did you get into the stars? Because, I mean, that's kind of your, you actually, are one of the founders of the night photography workshop. So how did you get working? How did the stars?
Yeah. So when I was a kid and growing up on the Oregon coast, it's mostly cloudy there. So you don't get to see the stars that often, but our bathroom in our home faced south. So if I would look out the window, I was looking south, and sometimes you get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and you look out the window, and sometimes you can see the stars, and it's like, wow, that's really cool, and so that's essentially how I got interested in the stars, because my parents never took me out, said, hey, let's go camping and go stargazing, or let's go, everything was done during the day, and then we were always home at night. So that's how I got interested in the stars once I could see them. And when I was a kid and when I got my driver's license, I would drive out to the beach and take pictures with my film camera on clear nights. And so I've always been interested in this night sky and shooting the stars. But back then you either had to shoot, there were no 30-second exposures, because you weren't shooting 6400 ISO film for 30 seconds. You were doing one shot for 3 to 4 hours.
Right.
And you never know what it was going to look like. So timing of the moon and everything was extremely crucial, because if you had too much moonlight, it would just blow out. If you didn't have enough, it'd be too dark, things like that. But yeah, so on the Oregon coast, I used to shoot the stars with film quite a bit. And then once digital came around, I realized that you could take your ISO and bump that way up and take a picture of the stars in 30 seconds. And it kind of looked like what you saw with your eyes, but the pictures were horrible. Mm-hmm. So through the advancements of cameras and technology, where we can now take amazing images of the night sky and print them big and be extremely happy with them.
Right. Yeah. So how did you? I mean, did you just kind of figure that out yourself, or did you just was it like a was it a whole bunch of people were like 6 or 7 years figuring this out? Because I mean, I don't remember seeing like star photos much before like 2000. I don't know, 13, 14.
So I think my earliest digital star photo was probably, I want to say it was 2006, 2007. I had a Nikon 5700 Coolpix, I think it was, 5 megapixels, 6 megapixels, and it was it didn't shoot RAW, it shot TIFF or JPEG. That was it, but there was no RAW on that file, I remember. And but yeah, I would take that camera out and try to take pictures of the night sky, and they were just the noise was, it looked like the worst grain film you could ever see,
Right.
And so I kind of put that aside for a while, and then 2009, 2010, when I got the 5D Mark II, things were a lot better then. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until 2014 or so when we started really applying specific techniques to reducing the noise after we shot them. For a long time, we just said, okay, this is what the picture looks like. It looks like crap. It's all noisy. So what are we going to do? But now, probably 2015 up until now, there's been stacking, there's been different types of noise reduction. But I think right now we are at a really good spot for producing super clean images of the night sky, no matter what camera you have. If I took that same Nikon 5500 camera today, I could go out and I could, through my process, I could shoot the night sky and I could bring the images back and I could produce a super clean image.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting takeaway where we're at right now is I think you can actually almost use any piece of equipment and still get the same through the techniques that are available today. I mean, I think that's the and it's fairly simple too. It's not like it's rocket science. Right.
In one of our classes, was it 2 or 3 years ago, we had a gal who brought a $400 camera in. It was a Nikon. It was one of their super low ends. And we did a comparison between her Nikon for $400 and my, $2,000 Nikon camera. And when the images were side by side, you couldn't tell which image was shot with which.
Right.
Because both had the same level or the same lack of noise.
Right.
Through the process that we teach.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't think people would understand that. I think they think the better the gear, the better it's really, that comes down to techniques. That's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
And I think what's interesting about shooting the night sky that most people don't really understand is that the biggest question I get when they see my astro photography pictures is they're like, does the sky really look like that? And so I guess the question I'm going to ask for you is, does the sky really look like that?
In my opinion, yes and no. So when I look at the sky at night, I see blue colors. I see cooler tones. I don't see oranges and reds and things like that. That's just not what my eye sees. So when I process my images, I always process the sky on the cooler side, but I always try to bring out the actual colors that are inside the Milky Way. Mm-hmm. And if you have a picture, no matter what it is, and you push the saturation up, it's only going to saturate the colors that are there.
Right.
It's not going to saturate colors that aren't there.
Right.
So whether the saturation is bumped up a little bit or not, those are still the colors that the camera captured.
Right.
It's not creating new colors just because you're saturating them.
Right.
So yeah, I feel there is color in the Milky Way. Our eyes may not be able to see it, but the camera can capture it. And so I want to bring that out and show that to the viewer through my images.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's an excellent explanation for that. And I think the one way that I actually take it another step further is like once you see the Milky Way through what the camera sees, it's hard to not ever see that again. So when you actually see the Milky Way yourself now, you start to see the colors that you've captured before.
Right.
It's hard to unsee it. Like once you see it, you can see it.
Yep. I agree.
You know, so it's kind of like that. It's kind of like when you bought a red car, whatever brand it was, and you just bought that car, for the next 3 weeks, all you see is that brand of red car driving down the road. I mean, it's that's kind of where that's at, you know? Yeah. All right. So what's your greatest success?
So two of them. One would be the fact that I was able to license an image to Samsung globally for 3 years. That's probably my biggest client to date. And the other
what was that for?
They just needed images for marketing for their TVs and all their devices. And so the license doesn't specify what they can use it for. It's globally. It's all electronics. You know, if you go to their website or product pages, you know, you'll see the image on there. And it's not just me. They chose 15 images from different photographers.
Cool.
But that was one of them. And that was...
So like theoretically, if you walked into Costco, you could actually see your photo on a TV in Costco.
Right. That was my theory too, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
But I can go online and I can show you the images all over Samsung stuff.
Okay, cool.
And that was one of those emails that you kind of get and you're like, yeah, right, whatever. And you kind of just dismiss it. But I thought, you know what? I'll reply to this one.
Yeah.
And so it worked out. So that was pretty good. Like financially, that was probably my biggest single sale. But my biggest success, I think.
So do they license the full copyright of that image for 3 years, or how did that work? Is it just a licensing of the image, or did they buy the copyright, or how did that work?
No, they didn't buy it. They have it for 3 years. The only thing I can do is sell prints on my website. I can't use it to advertise anything. I can't use it to do any promotions or anything like that. And so
you can still sell it as your own print.
I can just sell it as a print, yeah. But I can't use it for any kind of marketing or anything because they have those rights.
For 3 years.
For 3 years.
And then once that's gone, then you could actually say this was licensed by Samsung and market yourself potentially, if you wanted to.
Or what they've talked about doing is there's some images that they are probably going to buy from the photographers at the end. So we'll see what happens.
Keep them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people don't really understand that about licensing, which is interesting. It's like, you know, it's licensing the rights to use something versus the licensing or the buying of the copyright. And right now you're still the copyright holder.
Yep.
You know,
I own it. They just have it licensed for 3 years.
Right.
But I think my greatest success is maybe not financially, but is being able to teach others how to do photography. I love it when people come to our workshops and they maybe they live in a big city. We had a guy from Philadelphia. He never had seen the Milky Way. He said, we were walking down the trail from Delicate Arch, and he said, you know, I never thought I could see the Milky Way. He said, I always thought it was photoshopped that it was edited in Photoshop. He goes, but now I know. He goes, I got it in the back of my camera right now. And he was so happy. You know, just being able to share those experiences with people, that's what makes me really feel good.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. You know, I hear that a lot as well. That, you know, does the Milky Way really look like that, or can you really see the Milky Way? And there are people that are well into their last half of their life who have never seen the Milky Way before, and never even didn't even know it was up there.
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool. How many workshops do you do a year when you're not in quarantine?
When I'm not in quarantine, anywhere between 5 and 12.
Okay.
Mostly in the summer for the night photography, but then I do a couple on the Oregon coast in the off seasons, so the fall or the winter.
Any other places you're looking to like do workshops in that you're considering?
Mike and I have talked about like the Page area, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Places like that. Maybe like Kanab, but that'd be down the road a ways.
Mm-hmm.
We're pretty busy with Moab and Yellowstone, so we're pretty happy with those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Yellowstone sounds like a great place to shoot the night sky too.
In fact, yeah, they can't see it, but my background picture was shot at Yellowstone.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That was last summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, last July.
Yeah, I can see the Jupiters there in the horse.
Everybody will know what year your Milky Way shot was taken by where Jupiter is.
Yeah, does that?
It's always 2019.
I know, right? Yeah, because for those not who can't see this, in summer of 2019, Jupiter sat in the Milky Way horse all summer long. So most of us who shot the Milky Way have Jupiter sitting right there.
Yeah,
that's cool. Any regrets so far?
I'm sure I probably have some, but none that stand out to me that I think about on a daily basis.
That's good. That's good. Nothing that is like stuck in there that says, you know what, I really wish I'd done X, Y, or Z. That's pretty cool. What's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear? It used to be dying. I was always scared of dying until I held my mom's hand when she died and I saw how peaceful it was. And I'm not scared of dying anymore. But yeah, that was it for a long time. I don't know. My greatest fear, I don't know, maybe being homeless, ending up homeless someday with no family, like, some tragedy struck and like end of the world scenario or something. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of fears.
That's cool. I mean, we're kind of in that end of the world type scenario right now with this quarantine. And so far it isn't that, I mean, it's not good, but it's also not like the movies have portrayed it out to be.
Right. But maybe because it doesn't directly, maybe because I haven't seen it firsthand. Like I said, my wife goes to work and she sees it firsthand and it's like, man, you do not want to be one of those people on a ventilator, know? So
yeah, no, it's a bad, right now the big debate is like, is this overblown or is this whatever? And I'm in the firm camp that, none of us want to get this,
right.
So, until we know what it is and how to treat it and how to prevent ourselves from getting it, I think it's the best course of action right now,
Yeah.
What's your greatest inspiration?
My greatest inspiration, probably just nature itself and waking up every morning and looking out my window, and if there's clouds out there, I'll probably go shoot the sunrise. If it's clear blue sky, I'll probably just go back to bed. I'm inspired by the things that I see in nature, and by being out at night a lot. I see a lot of things that other people maybe don't see,
mm-hmm.
and just random shooting stars that go flying through the sky. Or one time I saw, this isn't inspirational, but one time I saw Chinese space junk burning up through the atmosphere.
Wow.
Something, it just stuff like that that's not planned.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think to myself, if I just stay in my house, I'm never going to see anything. So just knowing that there's stuff out there to see and to experience, that's probably what inspires me the most, is to get out there and see it and go do it,
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I will say this. As a photographer myself, who oftentimes looks out the window and sees the clouds and just decides to roll over and go back to bed, more times than not, it's inspiring to follow Darren on his Instagram pages and on other social media outlets, because he literally he practices what he preaches, because he shoots far more than most other professional photographers I follow. And he's not just going on a trip a couple times a year. He's shooting every day around where he lives, which I think is pretty inspirational too, because that most of us, we have our spots that we go shoot and we're like, well, if the conditions aren't just perfect, I'm not going to go,
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool, so it's interesting that you could say that that's your inspiration, because it really is how you live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just like being outside. You never know what you're going to see. I've seen some crazy stuff out there, so I can't.
How do you feel about shooting the same location over and over and over again?
I'm all for it. Like I say, I live right next to a state park, and I've probably been there in 7 years. I've probably been there 1,000 times, and shoot the same locations, the same set of trees, the same reflection in the water. But you know what? It's different every time.
Yeah.
And it's never the same. So when I lived in Oregon, I shot Trillium Lake and Mount Hood all the time. It was an hour and a half from my house, but the conditions were never the same. You're always going to get a different picture. So I'm good with it.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, I'm exactly the same way. I mean, I could never, like, I live 2 hours away from Death Valley, and I could go to Death Valley through the wintertime. I could probably just go there every month and shoot the same exact location, same exact spots, knowing that every single picture is going to look different.
Yep.
You know, and I have my spots around here too. So, I mean, yeah, it's interesting how that, but there are some photographers that if they've shot a spot, they're not going to go back. They don't go back.
Yeah. And I know some photographers who will go to one spot and they'll like allow themselves a week at one spot, and they'll stay there for an entire week to get the best picture,
right?
Or what they think is the best picture, the best light. That's a little bit opposite of how I operate. And there's no right or wrong. It's just that I'm not patient enough to sit in one spot for that long. I'd rather be moving around and chasing the light rather than waiting for the light.
Yeah, I have some friends, some people that do that too, and I don't really understand. I don't know what. I guess maybe I'm just not. Maybe I'm my own ADD, but I don't know what the perfect light is supposed to look like.
Right.
So I'm always afraid of missing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm more like you. I'd rather be out, you know, moving around, shooting, trying to find, and being surprised by what I get when I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no right. Obviously, there's no right or wrong. It's just interesting the different ways that people think about it, think about their art, basically. And I think that's what's cool about it. It's just art.
Yeah, it's different for everybody, and you know, we all have our different ways of doing it, but there's no right or wrong. So,
I mean, having shot with Darren, one thing I will say, it's pretty cool because Darren he shoots a lot, and I have some friends that I go and shoot with, and you never see any of their work. Like it'll be like years before you'll see an image from some trip. And I'm not quite sure. I'm sure it's just time and other reasons. But if Darren goes out on a shoot, you know that within an hour, you're going to see, he's going to share an image of where he was, which that isn't common with a lot of like true professionals, which I think is an interesting aspect of what Darren does, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, if he's out shooting the night sky, if he was out last night shooting the night sky, you know, this morning you're seeing an image from there.
Yeah. Which
is pretty cool. You know, I like the volume approach. I think there's nothing wrong with, I think more the merrier. I don't, you know, that's just me. So
I feel if it's fresh in my head, I can sit down, I can process it, and I can be done with it.
Yeah. I mean, that said, I have used this quarantine to go back through my old images and start to reprocess them there because it's you know, it's an interesting,
we all have.
It's an interesting experience to do that. So what would your current self say to your young self?
What would my current? Oh man, this is me talking to my daughter. I mean, I'm always giving every time I say, "Hey, Lexi," she says, "Oh, is this another life lesson?" You know, it's like I don't know. You know, always be on time. Don't make people wait for you. Always be the first one there. People who are always late just drive me nuts. You know. Always, it's little things like turn the lights off when you leave a room. Put your tools back. You know, don't leave stuff laying out.
Close the cupboard door.
Yeah, and this is stuff that my dad had to tell me over and over again. But you know, when you get older, you're like, oh yeah, now I know what he was talking about. You know,
mm-hmm.
You know, put your bike away. You know, put stuff away. Make your bed every morning. That's the big one we're working on now. Yeah, I think as you grow up, you look back at what your parents did and you really understand why they said the things that they did. And now I know exactly why they said it. And, but probably what I would tell my younger self is just don't be afraid to hear no. there was when I was doing photography and I was still working, but I was also, building my business, I was always afraid that people were going to say no, and I think now I tell people no all the time. So I think it's just to stand up for what you believe in. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to hear no, and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, that hearing no has always been it's been a battle for me. I mean, I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to hear the no.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you miss out on a lot of opportunities if you're not afraid to hear no.
Yep. And you have to be able to say no too. You can't just, if somebody asks you, like, especially for business purposes, I mean, if somebody comes to you with an offer, you have to be willing to turn it down because you have to determine, is it worth my time to get involved in something like this?
Mm-hmm.
I turned down an offer from a magazine publisher yesterday, and I turned down an offer from a magazine editor and a book publisher yesterday. Literally, they came in 30 minutes from each other, and the offers just weren't worth my time,
Right.
And it's like I told them no, and they just said, okay, thanks, and that was it.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, I think, learning to hear no and learning how to say no are two important skills that I think the sooner you learn them, the better off you're going to be.
Yep. And another thing is, do not care what people think about you. Do what you want to do, and just the less you care, the happier you'll be. I truly believe that. And with social media, people get so wrapped up in comparing themselves to other people. And, oh my God, Becky's traveling the world because she's selling a sports bra, or Jimmy's traveling the world because some tour company paid him to go to Africa. And you're sitting here at home going, oh my God, I don't get to do that. You can't do that because you'll just drive yourself nuts.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think I think we're in that spot right now. And I kind of wonder what the quarantine's going to kind of do. I wonder what COVID's going to do to all that. I wonder if that changes in the next couple of months or years. I wonder. I don't think it will, but it's interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. Time will tell for sure.
Yeah, I think I think most of us have gotten caught up in that. I mean, I will say this: when I first launched my podcast, I literally had anxiety about the first episode that I put out there because was it good enough? I mean, ultimately, it doesn't really matter. It's never good enough. You just have to go, right?
Everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah,
no matter what you do.
I remember when I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, when I published my first photo online, like on a photography place, I was literally just terrified, just thinking like, this is just terrible. And, everybody has anxiety the first time they do something, but I think ultimately once you get to the place where I don't care, I mean, I'll take whatever criticism somebody gives, and it's just somebody saying something. It doesn't really mean anything other than just they don't like something or whatever. And at that point, it doesn't matter at that point.
Yep, I agree.
So, who are your mentors or your heroes? I like heroes better, but you have any heroes?
Heroes, not so much. I strive to be as good of a person as my father was. He was always really strict with me, and he always, like I said, he was always telling me stuff, and now I know why. And so I always want to I feel if I can be a good person like he is and do right by other people and be honest, then that's the best thing. But photography speaking, my first inspiration and hero, I guess you could say, would be Galen Rowell, the late Galen Rowell. Mm-hmm. He was a photographer out of Bishop, California. And he was an adventurer first and then a photographer. And just his work is amazing. He'd get into a lot of really crazy locations and shoot from weird perspectives because he was on ropes and things like that. And then later on, it was Manny Millen who used to shoot sports for Sports Illustrated. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was, but I had a subscription to Sports Illustrated. I always loved his work. And when I was working for the high school newspaper shooting sports, he was always in the back of my head, And both of those people are people who that took the time to communicate with me and speak with me and write to me when I was younger. And so that really means a lot.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you actually like had relationships with them, like actually like, I mean, on some level.
Correspondence. Yeah. You know, I have a couple letters from Galen Rowell, and I have a couple from Manny Millen, but it wasn't like we were friends. We didn't hang out or anything, but you know, it was back in snail mail days. Mm-hmm. So you'd write.
Yeah, you kind of wonder how those people would have handled the world of social media today, and would they have been as accessible? You know?
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's an interesting. It's. I've always thought about like what Ansel Adams would do in today's world. You know, with all the technology and all the stuff that we have, because he was way out there, even in his time. You know, pushing the envelopes of what he could do. So you know, I was just a kind of little thought bubble out there. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah. So, what keeps you moving forward? What keeps you going?
My family, my daughter, she travels with me during the summer when we're not in quarantine. She travels a lot. We do several big road trips a year. And I love sharing experiences with her and being able to, have her not so confined to her home state or her home city. You know, I didn't travel a lot when I was a kid. Maybe going from Tillamook to Portland was a big thing, but we never took family trips like, you know, to California or Disneyland or things like that. That wasn't our thing. So by me being able to just keep moving forward and giving her those experiences, it's good. It keeps me going too. Mm-hmm. I got to keep up with her, and she's 13 now, so she's pretty hyper.
I love that. It's interesting because I have a 15-year-old and a 11-year-old, and one of my mentors actually, one thing that he told me is like when my kids were young, he's like, Doug, you have 10 summers. Mm-hmm. You only have 10.
Yep.
You know, spend them wisely.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of cool that you're able to do that.
And we're probably going to lose this summer. We have a trip planned to Europe that's supposed to happen in July, but I don't see that happening. So, yeah, realistically, she'll be 14. So, yeah, maybe 4 good summers left.
Yeah. You know? It's kind of sobering to think about it in those terms, but
I know. But I'm fortunate that, you know, we've built a pretty close relationship. So I don't think it's going to be, hey, I'm leaving for college. I'll see you guys in 10 years. You know, I think she's always going to be close to us. And I mean, I hope so anyway.
Yeah. I think the more time you spend with your kids, the better chance you have of, you know, having those things extend later on in life. I mean, I don't think it always ends at just 10. I think it can go longer than that, but I think if you think about it in terms of there's only 10 and just, you know, cherish each of those 10, I think you have a better chance of getting a few more.
And I know that like some of the places that I take her are places that I want to go, maybe there's been songs written about, things like that. She may not fully appreciate it now, but you know, 10, 12, 20, 30 years down the road, it'll hit her. She'll be like, oh yeah, okay. My dad used to do this, you know, and it'll mean something to her because she was a part of that.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I totally get that. So are you doing any teaching during the quarantine, stuff like that? Are you doing online coaching and teaching and stuff like that?
Yeah. So like I said, the workshops have been canceled up through June, the in-person workshops, but I am doing Zoom post-processing and meetings for those who want to talk photography, learn specific techniques, things like that. And I've learned a lot through this quarantine because I would never have thought to do a Zoom meeting or a something like that. But I got a lot of free time, so I've been scheduling meetings, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah. So how can people get a hold of you?
You can contact me through my website at darrenwhitephotography.com. I'm on Instagram at Darren_White_photography. and then email at drwhite75@yahoo.com.
All right, cool. And I'll put some links in the show notes and stuff like that so people can find Darren. I will say this. I think Darren is probably the best. He's a great teacher of photography, and he's an excellent teacher in astrophotography. And if you really want to learn how to take photos and take astro photos and actually be able to print them without noise and print them big, Darren is probably one of the best teachers in how to get that done, as far as I would say. I mean, of course, Darren's a friend of mine. I'm sure there are others out there that can do it well, but I mean, you won't find a guy more approachable and with more knowledge about how to take fantastic astro photos.
Thanks, Doug.
Yep. So thanks for the time, Darren. I mean, we kind of got to know a little bit about Darren today. I mean, I think, it's an interesting story that Darren has. I mean, how do you go from a kid in Tillamook, Oregon to being one of the best astrophotographers out there, teachers? I think it's pretty cool. It's a testament to perseverance and a lot of nights spent out alone, which is pretty cool. I mean, we didn't even get to that because I mean, being an astrophotographer means you don't sleep. It isn't. Well, I will back up. We'll go back up to the first question there because the early morning or night owl. I mean, when you're an astrophotographer, you're pretty much a night owl because you pretty much don't go to sleep during the early part of the season, right, Darren?
Yeah, and you factor in the moon phases and stuff, so there's plenty of time to sleep. But yeah, I'll stay up all night to shoot pictures if I can.
That's awesome, man. You're an inspiration to me, and I'm hopeful that you're an inspiration to a few other people along the way. But you've inspired me to be a better photographer, and you've taught me a lot, and I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right, man. Take care.
All right, you too.